Hello again. Welcome back to Asgard, and welcome back to Stacia. So since the last episode, I have been doing some additional automation within the base and getting some things set up. And over here, actually, let's start. We'll come down here in just a moment, but let's actually first talk about one thing up here. So right over here is where our astral field is located. And so I did move. I haven't moved all of our astral stuff just yet because I didn't really need it. But I did move our iridescent altar as well as setting up our light well. And what I've got here is just an interface keeping some aquamarine on hand and a controller that then moves that aquamarine up into the light well, extracts the fluid, inserts it into the jumbo tank, and you can see I've got a sensor set up here. And once it reaches about 1,000 buckets, it is going to emit a signal and basically stop the creation of the liquid starlight. So that's pulled out through an ultimate mechanical pipe into an ender tank, and then of course that ender tank is then sent over here, and you can see we have this one single ultimate mechanical pipe is almost filled up. We have 505,000 millibuckets inside of this. So a massive amount of backup storage that we'll end up having. We'll have, you know, a good 2,000 buckets, a little bit over that, between the jumbo tank and two of these ultimate mechanical pipes. So I just want to make a quick mention of that. I think the rest of the automation that I've been working on has been pretty straightforward stuff. And then down here, I did get pretty much all of our Botania stuff moved over. Our mana mirror is now connected to this one, and I'll quickly show you how we have our liquid XP set up. We're still using the liquid XP system for mana because it's just so good. But basically, the tank sets here, it gets fed liquid XP, it goes in the floating Rosa Arcana there. Elven Mana Spreader shoots it up into this pool. Now, right here, we do have a comparator that reads this mana pool, and it emits a signal if we have at least a power of 2 or higher. And at that point, it comes out, and I've got some sequencers set up here. They're all pretty much set up the exact same. You can see the mode is once 2, which says when a redstone signal is received, loop the cycle once, restart if a new pulse arrives. So basically every time they get a pulse, they only emit for 20 ticks, which equals a second. And you can see that if the signal is 2, it hits this repeater, goes through and up into this. So what this does is it tells it basically when to restart the system. And then right here, if we have a signal of 2, 3, we have a sequencer, and then a signal of 4, we have a sequencer. And the reason I have it set up this way, it may be hard to understand without seeing it in action. It takes so long to fill up. It's been running because I have a massive amount of pool storage down here. But basically all of those signals then go through, there's a redstone torch, and basically they shut off the redstone torch for 1 second, and that then goes through a receiver into this click machine. Because a click machine, as long as it doesn't have redstone, it can right click. So I've got it set to click once per second, which of course is 20 ticks. So every time a sequencer goes off, it's going to click once, which basically toggles this XP tapper. So the way that it works is if this, like right now it's got a signal here, it's not going to get any more signal. Eventually it will shut off that redstone torch, but it'll leave it shut off, not activating that sequencer. And then once it gets up to a power of 3, it'll hit the sequencer. Okay, now the reason for that is it will shut it off. Now the reason I have the 4 signal is just in case for some reason the way I have it set up, the XP tapper shouldn't be left on, but if it's left on and it keeps producing mana up to a signal of 4, then it'll shut off. This is basically just a safety guard, because I was thinking, well, it may, for some reason, it might click twice or something like that. It shouldn't, and I haven't actually had it run to the point of seeing if I actually need this 3rd sequencer, but that's basically just a safety precaution sequencer. So basically this just basically toggles that XP tapper on and off. It opens and closes it. So in theory, it opens it when it gets below a 2, allowing this redstone signal to then go through. The comparator not allowing that redstone signal out at that point. So it'll turn on the tapper. That tapper runs until it gets a redstone signal of 3, and then it shuts off the tapper. And then back and forth. Is how it is set up here. And then that mana goes through a little sequence here of elven mana spreaders down this line, which basically just feeds our entire little Botania area. So we have our elven gateway portal here. We have a spreader that shoots down to that. We have a spreader that shoots over. We have a spreader that shoots over to this. This is a dispersive spark, just like we set up before, which feeds all of these mana pools, and all of these can feed this dominant, which is our personal mana mirror system. And then over here, another spreader feeding the other side of the elven gateway portal, spreader feeding here to a dispersive spark, and then that going out into all of these, which of course can feed the terrestrial agglomeration plate, and then a dominant spark here, which is going to be our item drop system. And then down here at the end, we have our runic altar system here. So, oh wow, that one's already filled too. It's basically just filling up these huge buffers that we've got right over here. Everything else is like pretty well filled at the moment. And then I also have, this is for concrete automation. Of course, we could just drop it into the water. It would be faster, but it's not actually that important that we have instantaneous concrete creation, because of course making living rock, it takes a little bit of time to change it from concrete to living rock. So I decided just to go with the solidification chamber. It just fit in better into this area. So the solidification chamber making our concrete. We've got a terminal here. We've got a couple builders. This is just our living rock, living wood setup. So we have a builder. Anything that goes in this chest, which is being fed by an interface back here, is going to create living rock and living wood. It's creating 32 at a time. And then once it builds it and it changes over, we have a filter here, and you can see that it is filtering to only break living rock and living wood. So it just breaks it, and then we basically craft 32 at a time with this little system. So for example, if I was to order, let's order, yeah, that'll be fine. That's going to make 32. You can see it builds it, and then as soon as, we'll see it here in a minute, but as soon as that becomes living wood, then that system's going to break it for us. So just basically kind of cleaning up our Botania automation, getting us ready for today's episode, which is going to be blood magic and Botania automation. Basically Botania automation related to dropping items, because we do use that a lot with the alchemy catalyst. May do dropped, I don't think, the only thing I can think of that the alchemy catalyst conflicts with not having just a basic pool, the only thing that really comes to mind is grass, pasture seeds. Because if you drop it on alchemy catalyst, it makes ferns. But I don't think pasture seeds are something that we're going to be using a lot of. Just basically making floating flowers. Runic altar we may automate. Terrestrial agglomeration plate we may automate if the need arises. But I know thus far these aren't used a lot, and we're going to be moving into magical crops. So I don't know if we'll automate that or that. I haven't really had much in the way of runes except making my sparks and some jewelry. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to start off with, let's go ahead and do our blood magic automation first up. This is all super easy automation that we're going to be doing today. So what we're going to do is right here, I think I'm only using 4 channels thus far. What we're going to do is have ourselves interface setting here. This is where our recipes are going to go. Chest setting there. We're going to have on this chest a connector, and we're going to say BMN on that. Okay, so then what we can do is we can set up a few recipes really quick. I am missing 1 slate. I'm missing reinforced I don't have on hand. Alright, so let me just go ahead and make a slate real fast, a reinforced slate. We're also going to be setting up the system so that after it gets done crafting, our blood orb comes right back in here. So that way we can just have one altar that handles our life points, handles our crafting, all that good stuff. So it's super easy with XNet, so should be fine. And then let's go make ourselves, because I don't have a pattern terminal down here, let's make ourselves a few patterns. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to make a processing pattern that says, if you take living rock, it makes blank slate. If you take living rock, it makes demonic slate. If you take living rock, it makes ethereal slate. If you take living rock, it makes imbued slate. And if you take living rock, it makes reinforced slate. There we go. And then we'll make a couple others that we're going to have. We're going to have like the enriched iron one for making the basic coil. And then if you take the reinforced alloy, then you're going to get the elite coil. And that's good enough for now. We'll probably add some more to that, but that gives you a general idea. Now, the coils are pretty straightforward because they don't actually turn into anything. The main thing is going to be the slates, of course, because they do change form, and we've got basically 5 recipes here that take living rock and say, oh, I can craft all this with the same materials. So, okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to have some channels that come off of this, and they're going to come down, and right here we are going to have some level emitters. I'm going to have to craft one more of these, and then we're going to go ahead and get ourselves 5 crafting cards, and then I need 1 of each slate. And in each of these, of course, each of these are going to take a channel. So for example, if we take a look now, you can see we have 9 of 32 channels. But what we're going to do is we're going to put in our crafting card, and we're going to say blank slate. Then we're going to come over, drop in a crafting card here, oops, and put in our reinforced slate. Come over, put in a crafting card here, demonic slate, and so on. And then we're going to take and we're going to put in some connectors right underneath this. Because remember that these are going to emit redstone when these items are crafting. And then I'm going to go ahead and name these just for my personal reference. So this one is going to be blank. And then one other thing, we're going to go ahead and take this interface, and we're going to set this to blocking mode just to help us out a little bit. So do not push crafting items if the inventory contains items. And then we're going to run our connector over, and we're going to plug this into the bottom. We're going to bring this over, and we're going to plug it into the bottom of our blood altar. Okay, so that's all connected up. And I'm just going to be managing all of this from our Botania system because may as well. Our Botania system is not really using much in the way of channels, and we can kind of latch on to a lot of this. Okay, so we've got blank, reinforced, demonic, imbued, ethereal. And what we're going to do is we're going to set up a number of item channels. We're going to go ahead and copy. We're going to make 5 item channels here, and then we're also going to make an XNet logic system here. Okay, so what we're going to do is let's go ahead and do the logic. And we're going to make a few channels here. We're going to make these into sensors. And we're going to say that sensor mode is going to be redstone. And if you are greater than 0, and this is on the blank slate, so we're going to make this be, let's do color white, and then let's just copy this connector and go in here and paste. This one's going to be red, green, blue, and yellow. So basically this is going to read those level emitters, and if those are emitting a redstone greater than 0, of course they're going to be emitting like a 15, showing that that's crafting, they're going to emit a certain color onto this sensor line. And then we're also going to check the blood altar with one other thing, and this is going to be item greater than 0, and you're going to emit on the cyan color there. Okay, so if there's something in the blood altar, emit on cyan. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make on this, the blood altar, we're going to make a extraction line, and we are going to say that you can extract, stack, tin, all that stuff. And here we're going to say blank slates. And then let's go ahead and just copy this real quick. And we're going to go through and just paste onto all of this. And then we're going to replace this. This is the reinforced line. This is the demonic line. This is the imbued line. And this is the ethereal line. So we can handle all of these different slates. Each one's going to have its own dedicated channel. So we're not really using a ton of channels. from XNet, but we are using a little bit. Alright, now what we're going to do, we're going to double check. This is the blank line, that's where we started, which is white. And we're going to say enable on white, enable on red, because this is our reinforced, enable on green, because that's our demonic, enable on blue, and enable on yellow. And just quickly double check all of this. Good. And you can see that if the AE2 system says, hey, I'm crafting this specific one, then enable the extraction of that specific slate from the blood altar. And since we're going to be using blocking mode, we'll only be handling one of those things at a time. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to put some inserts here, and then it's just going to be the ME interface, and we're going to copy and paste our insert lines for the ME interface. Okay, so that's the way that we're going to handle slates. And then let's go ahead, let's copy this connection. Let's also put a connection on the BMN also, which is going to read items greater than 0, and we're going to output on the magenta as well. So we're outputting on cyan and magenta. And now what we're going to do, of course we've kind of used up all these channels, right? For that, but that's not a big deal, because what we're going to make, and this is basically going to allow us to have more or less infinite channels, all we could want, we're going to make an entangled block. So this right here, super cheap to make, and we're going to make ourselves a entangled binder. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pop down, well, I can use one of these. I don't use them for that much, honestly. So let's go ahead, swap this over to an advanced connector, and we're going to put in our entangled block right there. So what we're going to do is we're going to shift right click our blood altar, and then come down and right click, and you can see the blood altar kind of rotating there. There we go. Had to break and replace it, but we're going to attach our advanced blue connector to that entangled block, which is basically that entangled block is going to be the blood altar. All right. And so what we're going to do is we're going to come up, find our entangled block right here. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and filter these inserts. I really only need one of them filtered, I guess, but for the way that I'm going to be doing this. But what we're going to do is we are going to set up the entangled block. We're going to set up an extraction here. We're going to say stack, and we are only going to allow it to extract the master blood orb, and we're going to allow it to insert that then into there. And we're only going to allow it to extract if BMN magenta color is on. Okay, so if we were to throw this back in, you'll see that it doesn't get extracted. But as soon as something, whatever that may be, something comes into this chest, there we go. It extracts the master blood orb. And that is so that if anything gets sent in here to craft, it automatically pulls out the blood orb, puts it away in that chest. And bear in mind that when that orb gets pulled out and deposited into that chest, it's going to basically keep blocking mode active, which doesn't allow more items into our chest until the current crafts get done. Okay. So then what we're going to do, which we may turn up the slate crafts to like say 32 at a time, because why not? But we'll see. I might actually do that because I think that would be better for us. But so that's going to handle pulling out the blood orb, and then what we're going to do is we're going to add an insert line here that says that you can insert, and you'll be able to insert enriched iron and reinforced alloy, and you'll be extracting from this. Okay, and we'll will only extract those. And since this is filtered, it won't insert those things into there. And it's not, basically I'm going to have this kind of separate because that way it's not interfering with the enabling color and all that. And then right over here, we'll say that you'll also be able to extract the basic coil. I'm sorry, not on this one because we're using the enabling color. You'll be able to extract here, stack, elite coils, and basic coils. Then anything else that we add can be done here, and you'll be able to insert those just into there. Okay, so everything's filtered, and this way it can handle all the additional recipes just by adding our filters in here. Really, I could not insert on the entangled block. I could just insert here because it's not enabling color on there. But just keep it kind of organized and it's easy to find. Basically just adding everything into these filters here. Just kind of makes our lives a little bit easier as far as adding additional recipes. And that's pretty much it for Blood Magic Automation. It's basically just reading off all of these sensors. Oh yeah, and I got one other thing here. If the blood altar is empty, it's going to be outputting a color. And right here, I need to actually set this to equals for the what's reading off the blood altar. If it's equal to 0, it's going to emit the cyan color. And what we're going to do is we are going to allow it then to extract. Almost forgot about that because we got to put the blood orb back in. It's going to be able to extract, if it is on the cyan color, the blood orb, and it's going to be able to then insert that blood orb into the entangled block, but only if cyan is active. Okay, so now our blood orb sits right there. That's great. If we were to order, dump this stuff back in. If we were to order ourselves, and do we want to go ahead and turn up the recipe? Yeah, let's go ahead and turn up the recipes. We're going to change it to that. 32 living rock makes 32 blank slates. May as well craft these in bulk when we need them. So that way we can just have it crafting more at a time instead of it kind of bouncing back and forth between crafts. And we can do that with the coils as well. Because these, I'm going to be using these a lot for solar panels and other things. So these we'll just order 16 at a time. Okay, so now if we come down and let's say we wanted to order... let's start off with ordering, say 40 coils. So we're going to be crafting 48 of these. We give it a minute, it's going to have to craft the enriched iron, which is fine. But we should say the blood orb goes out. Okay, it's got the enriched iron. And I also need to add in the insert here, living rock. Oh, and I also added to this to just go ahead and check to make sure there's only one item in this, and then send the blood orb back into the altar, just to make sure that it's not trying to send it in when the items come in, you know, something like that. So I finally figured out what the issue was. I was messing with this for a while. I was like, it's not extracting anything. It was driving me insane. I just realized I don't have enable processing on this channel turned on. So, GG me. Let me go ahead and turn processing on these channels. Okay, so you can see the enriched iron goes in here properly. Right now there's 31 because I took some out. Just messing with it. So if we give this a minute... that doesn't normally automatically turn off, but it did in our case. So I think whenever you add additional channels now, you have to remember to turn that on, and I'm used to the 1.12 version, so I forget about that. So once this finishes up, we should see this get pulled out. Master Blood Orb comes back in. It gets pulled back out because now there's more enriched iron in the system wanting to make more coils, so it makes that. There we go. Oh, it took me... I was messing with that for like, no joke, like 20 minutes. I was like, this is driving me insane. I was like, it should be extracting. And then I totally didn't realize that enabled processing was turned off. There goes the Master Blood Orb back in, and now it's going to fill the Blood Orb back up until another craft comes in and gets requested. So now if we come in, we can order, let's say we want 20 reinforced slates. Okay. It's going to craft 32, of course. You can see it drops the living rock in there. And you can see that this is activated. So what we should say is that it's going to make the blank slates, but it's not going to pull them out. And then as soon as it makes the reinforced slates, it will pull those out. Now, I guess technically we could save a channel, do the ethereal slates with the coils. Because if there's no redstone signal to pull out any other slate, we could just pull out the ethereal ones because there's nothing post-ethereal. So I guess that is one change that we could make to save like a channel line. So if you're setting that up and you want to do that, you can do that because we don't really necessarily need a redstone signal to say, okay, pull it out now in that case. So I'm going to leave it as is because I'm not that worried about it personally. And it does kind of make everything a little bit more organized as far as where the slates go and where the other recipes go. If I'm adding additional things, it kind of makes it a little bit easier for me. But you can adjust that. Oh yeah, the consumption's only 5 on these. They're so slow with the reinforced stage. We actually have a lot of speed upgrades in here, but let's go ahead and just speed this up a little bit. And when I was trying to figure this out, I accidentally stuck my pick in the sound filter that's down there, so I've lost that, which is cool. I love whenever that happens. It's up, the broken one's up in a chest somewhere, but that's okay, because we got the mecha tool now, and I think we might make a new super pick soon, just because that one got destroyed. Hopefully I never touch this again, because it eats my picks. But once this is set up, this will be the last time that we ever touch it. All the subsequent slates are way faster. Just the blank slate is super slow. I think or the reinforced slate. I think the blank slate's consumption is tuned up quite a bit. Like if we take a look here, yeah, consumption's 20 on that, and imbued is 15. Just this one 5, so slow. Okay, so it's just about to finish up, and then we should see these get pulled out, and reinforced. It turned my imbued slate into, or it turned my blood orb into an imbued slate. Because whenever I pulled that out, it just sent it back. Okay, I got this sorted. It wasn't reading directly off of the level emitters. And so now if I throw in, say, ethereal slate, it doesn't go anywhere. Imbued slate doesn't go anywhere. You can see the reinforced slates get pulled out. Because the redstone's allowing these to get removed. Okay. So now if we were to order, let's go ahead and order 20 imbued slates. Just to make sure this all works correctly. That gets going. Okay, 32 times speed. May not be great for the imbued slates, but looks like it's still going to craft it though. There we go, and they get pulled out. Okay, yeah. So basically I just put the level emitters facing down into redstone and then the blue connectors reading off of that. That fixed it. I was thinking that the level emitters could be read off for the redstone, but they can't be. But yeah, so that fixes everything. We should be all in order now. Let me order some coils real quick. Make sure that these craft well. And I also got to add my solars into this as well. But I'll get that added. That's fine. So there they go. They get dropped in. And we give this just a minute. And there we go. And they get pulled out. Okay, perfect. So that's working. That's working. So once again, just the sensors are set up the same. They're just reading off that redstone, and then the extractions are being managed by those colors. So I'm still not sure why it turned my blood shard back into, or why it turned my blood orb back into a blood shard. But I do need to test it just to make sure that this works correctly. I'll set it there. There we go. It's filling up. And I order a slate. Let's just order some blank slates. They go in, get crafting. And then as soon as they're done, we should get our blood orb back in. Okay, there we go. It must have just been a bug. Hopefully it doesn't come back up. If it does, then I'll have to take some steps to fix that. But hopefully that doesn't come back up. But yeah, our blood orb comes back in, so great. We're sorted on the blood altar. Okay, so for the other two things, for our Botania stuff, the things that we're going to be automating today is the mana pool slash alchemy catalyst and the elven gateway portal. Now, once again, the only thing I can think of that comes to mind that this will conflict with is pasture seeds, because pasture seeds are made with a mana pool, but ferns are grass thrown in with an alchemy catalyst. That's the only thing that comes to mind. If we find that we just need a bunch of pasture seeds, we'll do the same thing with a mana pool, but without the alchemy catalyst. Like, we could set it up over here and have it match on that side. That would be fine. But I've made two recipes here. These are going to be our example recipes. So elven quartz and mana quartz. For the mana quartz, for tossing things down to the mana pool, we're just going to use ourselves a factory dropper. Set this up right there. We're going to adjust this. Drop delay I'm going to leave as 1 second. Drop stack size I'm going to leave as 1. We're going to say ignore redstone, which is this X. We'll just leave this as is because we're not actually going to be filtering anything. And we are going to say, we're going to leave it here. This is continuous. And this is our drop direction. But we're going to leave it just directly down. We want it to just toss its items directly down. So for example, if we throw in, say, living rock, you can see it tosses it directly down to the mana pool. And that's really it for the dropping. Then what we're going to do is take and make ourselves a flat interface, put this onto the factory dropper, and then just plug this up. So, let's see, there's 5 channels coming off of that. Yeah, we can plug all this up with this then. And we're going to plug it up into our XNet system. So there's that. And then we'll just put in the recipe here for the mana quartz. And let me grab one of each of these. Then we're going to set up the item collection. So what we're going to do is right in here, we're going to poke a hole in this. And we're going to put in, well, actually, since it's right there, let me get, we don't even have to have our XNet system manage this. We're just going to put a logistical transporter in right there. And right here, we're going to put in our vacuumulator, sitting right there. And we're going to say that you can extract. And then what we're going to do is open up our vacuumulator, and we're going to put in 2 radial enhancement augments, which increases its maximum radius by 1. And then we're going to put in an item filter. And right here, we're going to say this is going to be an allow list, elven quartz, mana quartz. Okay, so for example, if I throw down white Portuguese pavement, vacuumulator is not going to do anything with that. If I instead throw down mana quartz, and we give it a second, the vacuumulator sees it, it grabs it, and basically then it just dumps it into the system from there. So, alright, and then if I was to order some mana quartz, so let's order, say, 10. We should see it start dropping into here. It's making mana quartz, and the vacuumulator is collecting it. And actually, I'll tell you what, I need to shift this over to, say, there. Because there was 1 mana quartz it couldn't reach. So, this will be a better spot for it. So if I throw one down there, that's where it couldn't reach it. And the vacuumulator can get it now. Okay. So now that should cover the entire area for us. And then what we're going to do is for this right here, we're just going to get ourselves, I prepped it and I threw it back in here. We're going to grab ourselves a precise dropper. We're going to open up this spot right here, set down our precise dropper. We're going to say always on, preview's hidden. Basically, if we turn on the preview, you can see it just dumps it straight forward. So we're not going to adjust the offset or anything. And that should be good. Then we just have to run some power over to this. And we need to plug up an interface. So interface there. Plug that up. Throw in our pattern. Go ahead and put a facade right there. And then let's go ahead and set our count up all the way. Just do a whole stack at a time. That's fine. And we don't want really much in the way of delay. So we'll do 1 on delay. Okay, so now, just to make sure it works, let's order ourselves 30 elven quartz. And you can see it's tossing that in and making our elven quartz for us. It's really just waiting on the elven gateway to transform it all for us. And if we take a look here, we have 31 elven quartz because I had 1 left over. So it's that simple. These two both really, really easy. Vacuumulator covering both of those. And then now I just have to add in some recipes. So we'll go ahead and order 21 mana quartz just to make sure everything works well over here. And then, of course, we can do the same thing with string. We can do mana steel. We can do mana pearls, mana diamonds, all that stuff through this. It's all pretty straightforward. So, Vacuumulator's grabbing everything perfectly. I did have, like I said, I needed to shift it over because if something lands right in here, it couldn't reach it, but it got everything for us. And if we take a look, that's completed, and we now have 96 mana quartz. So, and then, like I said, if we find that we need both of these, we can automate them super easily. Both of these. This is really just another factory dropper and a collector, but this is basically the same thing, and then just a clicker with a wand of the forest. So it's that simple. It really, really is. So, but yeah, so we're going to wrap up this episode here. The biggest thing, of course, was the blood magic altar. I know I had some questions about how I was going to automate that before, and I figured it was time that we got that automated. And we get to delve into some XNet logic and do that on camera, because I've set up a few things with XNet logic, but I think this is our first thing really in-depth on camera for that. So really straightforward, just using the various different sensor colors. So, but anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. If you did, as always, be sure and hit that like button and go ahead and subscribe if you're not already, to stay updated with when new videos come out. And I hope to see you guys next time. So until then, as always, do take care, stay safe, and I'll see you guys then.